everyone, it's Lil D from LilDevet.com and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm doing another video for my Traveler's Notebook series. This one is for the composition size Traveler's Notebook. I didn't have this size when I filmed the first 3 videos, so in this video I'll give you a recap of those same topics, specifically the composition notebook size and how it compares to the other size Traveler's Notebooks, 2, the features and options available, and 3, where you can find notebooks. So if you're interested in learning more, please keep watching. To begin, I'm going to share with you a little bit about the notebook. I purchased this from the Leather Quill Shop. I'll make sure to leave a link down below. It's called the Sweeney Leather, and it's a rich brown leather with this gorgeous embroidered floral pattern. And I chose the riveted pen loop built in because I need my pen loop, and bright orange elastics, which is a beautiful contrast against this color. I chose to finally give in and buy a composition notebook because I take a lot of notes from webinars and classes. This notebook is designed to house composition size notebooks, which are approximately 7.5 inches by 9 3/4 inches. Like I said in my previous videos, you generally have to go by the size of the books or notebooks or journals you're going to use and then choose the correct cover for it. Some Traveler's Notebook makers call this the notebook size, others call it the composition size. In any case, both terms are used interchangeably. So now let's compare it to some of the other notebook sizes. The first thing I'm going to do is compare it to the smaller range Traveler's Notebooks. So this is the Micro, which is the smallest of all the Traveler's Notebooks. Sometimes it's also called a Nano or a size 0. And compared to a composition notebook, it's that small. Very, very small. Next up is the Passport size. This is the next size up. And compared to the composition notebook, it's growing, but it's still very small. And lastly, this is a pocket size or field note size notebook compared to the composition size. And again, now we're getting past the string. It's getting a little taller, but again, it's very, very small. So if you own any of the smaller sizes, that is the size comparison. Now let's look at the mid-range covers. Next up, we have the mid-range Traveler's Notebooks. This is the size A6, and this is what it looks like compared to a composition size notebook. Next up, this is a personal size Traveler's Notebook, and that is it compared to the composition size. This is a B6 Slim. And now we're finally starting to get a little bit more stature, getting a little taller, but still very narrow. This is about half the size of the composition notebook. And lastly, if you own a B6, this is how the size compares to a composition notebook. So lastly, we'll look at the larger sizes. So lastly, we have the larger of the sizes. This is the standard Midori, or now known as the Traveler's Notebook Company. This is what started it all. It sometimes goes by the name narrow, regular, or standard. And compared to a composition size, we're almost about as tall, but it's still very narrow. Next, this is the extra wide. And we're getting into the larger sizes. So if you generally like larger size Traveler's Notebook and we're curious on how this compares to a composition size, that's how it compares. And then lastly, this is the A5. So this is usually about as big as most people go, an A5, because it's still manageable. You can carry it around if you have a briefcase or a tote or a backpack. But as you can see, the composition size is much, much bigger. The last thing I'd like to do is compare it to everyday items, just in case you don't own any traveler's notebooks. So here I have my iPhone 7 Plus. I have a Tombow pen. It's actually a marker. And this is a standard ballpoint pen. So for reference, this is the size of a composition notebook compared to my iPhone 7 Plus. This is compared to a Tombow pen. And then lastly, this is compared to a regular ballpoint pen. So it's a big boy. It's very, very big. So now let's take a look at some of the features and options available. Many of the traveler's notebook companies whose notebooks I've featured pretty much offer this size if you were interested. Now, the only options and features that I'm concerned about is having a pen loop, because, you know, if you're going to do so much writing, it just makes sense to me to have a pen handy. I also prefer to have inside pockets. This one didn't come with it, but as I mentioned in one of my other videos, there's things you can do to compensate for that. So if you look at this emblem and you recognize it, these are actually extra large pockets from Erin Condren. I picked these up, sorry about the glare, at my local Staples, and they're larger than the normal stick-on pockets that you would find either online or at your office supply store. And as you can see, these fit perfectly. Considering how large this notebook is, I just put one on each side, and now what I've done is expanded my storage space so that not only can I carry 4 notebooks, or potentially 8 if you double them up, but I can also carry papers. In addition, I chose to have the riveted pen loop. And I know it looks kind of small, but I wanted to show you that it can actually accommodate a lot of different pen sizes. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how some of the most popular pens used by planner nerds fit in here. So I have here, this is the G2 gel pen. Now, the problem with some of these is that it has the rubberized grip at the bottom, so it tends to get stuck. But as you can see, you can't do it quickly, but it does slide in pretty well and without a problem. And then you can slide it back out. This one here, this is the Papermate Inkjoy. This also has a rubberized body, not just down here at the bottom, but also going up the side. And as you can see, I can slide it in pretty well. This one here is popular for those who like to color code. So this is the Pilot Lumio Coletto, and this one has 4 colors in it. Because of the smooth body, I can slide this in pretty well and just open the clip. There is a larger Coletto. This one actually takes 5 colors compared to the previous 4, and it also has a rubberized grip at the bottom, so it will fit. You just have to go slow, but it will fit. And then what I try to do is I hold on to the top part of the pen loop and I use my thumb to ease it out. This is the 4-colored pen that comes with the Hobonichis when you order one. So that one also has a rubberized grip. That one goes in just fine. And then lastly, this is the Pentel Energel, one of my favorites. Again, rubberized bottom, and that goes in pretty easily. So as you can see, you don't really have to worry if some of these are your favorites, it'll fit in here just fine. Now, of course, I have to pay tribute to my fountain pen nerds as well. So let's take a look at some of the more popular fountain pens that you might use, just so you can see that it can accommodate larger bodies. The thinnest of these is the Pilot Decimo. This is very similar to the Pilot Vanishing Point, but as you can see here, it's actually a thicker body. So this one, being the slimmest of all, will slide in just fine. However, if you do happen to have the Pilot Vanishing Point, again, that will fit in there. You just have to go slow, and it's in there very securely. And again, my trick is I keep my fingers at the top of the pen loop and I use my thumb to ease it out. This one is a fountain pen made also by the Leather Quill Shop. And this one has a cap on it, and that one fits just fine. Now, if you're the type of person that likes to cap your pens, so you want to take the entire pen out, my suggestion would be that you don't necessarily push it all the way down, because what'll happen is this way you can get it out much quicker. It will hang on to the body snugly. As you can see, it will not fall out. It's in there pretty snug. So, you know, it's really your preference. I sometimes like to leave the cap behind, so I will clip it all the way down to the clip, and then I'll just twist off the bottom half of the body. So however you prefer to use your fountain pens, you can clip it either way. This is also another popular model. This is the Pilot Metropolitan. And it's kind of a cigar-shaped fountain pen. As you can see, it's nice and smooth, so it goes in there just fine. And again, using my trick. Now we're getting into two thicker models. So this is the Lamy in the rose gold, and this one will fit in just fine. However, it will stop at the cap. So again, it's in there very securely. It will not fall out. It goes around snugly, not overly tight, so you can slide it in and slide it out. And then lastly, this is another popular model making its way around the planner community, which is a TWSBI. So this is my TWSBI Mini. And again, I prefer to just secure the body. I leave the cap exposed. It's in there very securely. As you can see, I can't even tap it out. And then I use my trick of holding onto the top, using my thumb and sliding it out. So whether you're a fountain pen lover, or you just like multicolored pens, or pens with a rubberized grip, it'll fit in here just fine. And some other makers, you know, have other features. They have built-in leather pockets, they have outside pockets. So depending on who you go with, you can get almost any kind of option or feature that you like. So lastly, let's take a look at the notebooks available. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with the composition notebooks that we all grew up with. Usually it came with a marble type cover. Nowadays, they're getting a little bit fancier. These here are graph ruled, but nowadays they sell them with graph, college ruled, wide ruled, in all sorts of varieties, and they even come with nicer covers with different patterns and things. So I decided to start with the cheapest option. These kinds of notebooks you can find in the dollar store, your office supply store, and almost anywhere, and they're relatively inexpensive. However, there are other brands now coming out with notebooks as well that I just wanted to make you aware of. In addition to the regular composition brand, Mead also makes a classic composition notebook. It's just a bit smaller, but for the most part, it's about the same size. There's other brands that you might be using in some of your other travelers' notebooks, such as May Designs. They sell their notebooks online and they allow you to customize it, so you can put your initials on it, you can choose a pattern. Their large size is the 7.5 by 9 3/4 dimensions, so those would fit in this cover just fine. Also, mid last year, Webster's Pages came out with a composition cover. And along with that cover, they're now selling notebooks. So they also have dot grid, lined, and they have a planner book, which has a month on 2 pages, as well as a week on 1 page in a horizontal format. And they also have another booklet that gives you a day on 1 page with this wonderful layout so that you can capture all sorts of different information. So that's another option. Also, Moleskine, they generally tend to have notebooks in almost every size. They're professional, as well as their classic or cahier in the extra large. Those notebooks come in the 7.5 by 9 3/4 dimensions, so those will fit in here just fine. Just today, I was on one of my favorite fountain pen vendor websites, and I realized that Rhodia has come out with a notebook. So they have these new Rhodia sewn journals with beautiful Clairefontaine paper. So if you're a fountain pen user, you're going to love that book. I actually ordered 2 today. Those have the 7.5 by 9 3/4 dimensions. And lastly, Erin Condren, they are also producing journals. The dimensions are 7 by 9. So it's just a tad shorter, but that's okay. They should fit in here just fine. So as I shared in my previous video, just remember my #1 tip for finding notebooks, because some people feel like, oh my God, I have to buy my notebooks online all the time. But frankly, if you just keep in mind the dimensions of the notebook that you tend to use, just look around, and sometimes you'll be surprised, you know, you might find a no-name brand that you've never heard of, but they make a notebook in the size that you're looking for, and then you just have another option that you can find locally. So I'm really happy that I finally was able to finish up my roundup of traveler's notebook sizes. Like I said, I had all of them but this size, and I'm actually loving it. I'm taking some online courses, and I'm using those composition graph notebooks that I showed you, and it's working out really well. I mean, I have plenty of room to take notes if I need to brainstorm or do a mind map or whatever. I have a lot of space to do that. Because of the size, I just got to warn you, it does tend to get heavy, and it is very bulky. So this isn't a notebook that I take with me outside of the house. I just leave it somewhere, and when I know I need it, I will just take it out and take notes. If I were to attend an in-person class, I would probably take it with me, because it's the same as bringing, you know, just a regular wire-bound notebook. But, you know, I'm not so sure how ideal this particular size would be for a planner given the size and the weight. So I hope you found this video helpful. If so, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have any other questions or topic requests, just leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, as well as check out my blog at lildevette.com for more information. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, bye.